Hi, Rosie Finn, astrologer in Olympia, Washington. And I felt inspired to do just a short talk today because I just watched Heather Cox Richardson's podcast that or webcast that she did today. Today's July 29th, 2025. And she's so in alignment with what I've been looking at astrologically, even though she's a historian, definitely not an astrologer. I hope she doesn't mind that I'm citing her work. But what she's talking about so aligns with what I've been tuning into. So I wanted to share just some of the things she said today, and then just give a little bit of a look into the next week astrologically. So she starts by, and this is towards the end of the talk around, if you go and listen to the talk, and I highly recommend it. Uh, it's the end, it's around 39 minutes into the talk. She says, she's answering a question, how do you not get overwhelmed with everything that's going on? And her answer is this. So on this one, I can help. I mean, I always say, pick your lane, take a break, and all that kind of stuff. But the truth is, not a lot. Famous last words. I shouldn't say this because, well, but not a lot. Usually happens in August. In other words, not a lot happens in August. So, like today, I gave you most of the huge stuff. There's big major stories like voter suppression and that kind of stuff I'm following. But a lot of the stuff that people are showing you flashing red lights, it's not going to be in the history books. It's really just not. And that might be one way to look at the news. All right, so she's saying not a lot's going on in August. That's what we've been saying astrologically. It's There are some things about this month that can be helpful, but really the big stuff astrologically is beginning at the end of August. With the new moon on the 23rd, we move into eclipses, we move into Pluto out of bounds. We have Uranus stationing on an eclipse on September 7th. We have an eclipse on the 21st, 22nd of September that is at the world access point. We have Saturn moving back into Pisces, so it's at the world access point. We have a lot of very intense transits in September and October, and August is pretty calm in a certain way. We get to move forward with things. So if you need to take some time, August is the month to do it, she says. We're gonna hit the ground hard in September and October. And it's okay to look away and to enjoy the weather, to take some time right now. Exactly what we're saying here. I do maintain that with the extreme instability in the White House, the extreme instability in the Republican Party, the extreme instability in the country at large, and the instability in the Democratic Party as it decides which way to move forward, now is the time to speak up on whatever you care about. So, and that is perfect for August. It's time to speak out. Doesn't have to be politics, doesn't have to be gerrymandering, although that's going to be my big thing or her big thing going forward. Speak up, talk to local people, talk to your friends, talk to state officers, take, talk to anybody you can find about the things that matter to you. And this is this great sentence, she says, because we are going to have to articulate a new country when we come out of the ruins of this. This is Pluto out of bounds. At first, it's the ruins. At first, it's the chaos. At first, it's the dismantling. And then there's this time of recreation, reformation, creating new laws and new ways of doing things, creating a new reality. And because Pluto goes out of bounds for such a short period of time, not even the entire year for the next 10 years, it means things are going to happen fast. And us articulating a new country when we come out of the ruins of this might happen very quickly. I mean, she's looking at just over the next 2 years. She's thinking that once we get to the next elections, that's going to be the kind of rectification moment where we're going to elect new leaders and there's a real chance to take apart this government. But also, the rate of destruction that this current administration is doing, they might not last for the next 2 years. There's some indication that the whole piece that's going on with the Wall Street Journal and Trump suing Rupert Murdoch and is a sign of things dismantling quicker. But, so anyway, to go back to Heather Cox Richardson, what she said today, she said, and crucially, I think a new idea of how one behaves in the United States. So our like changing our behavior, how we agree to things, how we act together. You know, if you think about it, she goes on, the old biographies of George Washington, they were literally designed at the beginning of this country to help inform people how to behave in a democracy. And I think sort of just from the 1980s, and maybe before that, the idea was that the way you behaved in a democracy was you grabbed as much for yourself and your families as you could. So earlier in the talk, she's talking about gerrymandering, and she's pointing particularly to the Reagan years, which were the justice time when Pluto was at 0 degrees declination, which is a turning point. And most of the rest of the world went into demonstrations, went into revolutions, nonviolent revolutions, went into shifts. But the United States went into this place where there was just massive corruption that happened in the 1980s, and Reagan's trickled down economics and this transfer of wealth, just massive transfer of wealth that went from the bottom 50% to the top 1%. And the policies that then informed both parties, the Republican and the Democrat parties, about how to quote unquote win elections or steal elections or manipulate people into voting for things that weren't actually true. So she's pointing out that the 1980s was kind of a turning point in a way, where we started behaving as if in a democracy you grabbed as much as you can for yourself and your families. She's so understated. I don't think that's done us very well, she says. I think we're going to have to articulate a new kind of what it means to be an American. And that is really exciting project. I think because it will make us redefine ourselves and redefine what we want the government to do as it represents us. So speak up, take the time you need, but also speak up and get involved in the things you care about. So August is kind of the end of the year. The fall is when the year begins, at least the scholastic year, which really informs a lot of things. All the students, the college students going back to school, parents shifting when their kids go back to school. So August is a month to take a vacation, to take some time out. Europe goes on holiday in the time. So it's always felt that way for me. So you hit the ground running with the semester starts. So try not to get overwhelmed, but do keep speaking up because this is not the time to be quiet. Everything is going to be hitting the fan in the next 3 months. So anyway, thank you for being here. That's how she ends it. Everything is hitting the fan in the next 3 months. She's not talking about August. She's talking about September, October, November. Those are the months when Pluto's out of bounds. September, October, these are eclipse months. There is definitely this sense of the shit hitting the fan in those months. I'm going to pull up the chart for today because this really speaks to speaking up right now. So when we look at this chart, we've got Mercury retrograde at 10 degrees Leo right now. So this is that power point. When Pluto goes out of bounds to the north, it goes out of bounds between, actually pretty much 0 to 20 degrees Leo. And so particularly around 9-10 degrees Leo, this is the point where when other planets go to that point, they express kind of the similar qualities. So 9 degrees Leo is about power and power amassed. When it's Mercury, this is about the ability to speak out. So Mercury's retrograde, which is a little bit giving us a little bit of that August kind of break. It's time to speak out, but also get your message together a little bit. Think about us all recreating our relationships with each other, how we're going to behave as a country, as a society, as a world. The sun right now is at 7 degrees Leo. That means that Mercury's retrograding towards the sun. The sun is moving forward towards Mercury. They're going to conjunct in a day or two. And as they conjunct, that's a certain it's a trying to think of the word in Vedic astrology for it, a planetary Yuddha. It's a war between the two planets. I think there's somewhere that people are using now, Kazimi or something like that. It just means that the two planets are conjunct with the sun. So the sun blows up Mercury, but it gives us a chance to speak out, at least get clear about what we want to say and pick our lane and figure out which direction we want to take it in. When Mercury goes direct, which will be in a couple of weeks. I just look at ephemeris here. Mercury will go direct on the 10th, 11th. The sun at that time will be then 17 degrees Leo. So we're in some of the most powerful time, August 1st, 2nd, 3rd, because both the sun and Mercury are at that power place conjunct. The other planet that I want to point out is that Venus is moving into Cancer in, let's see, my notes here say Venus moves into Cancer on July 30th at 9 p.m. So that's tomorrow, Wednesday, July 30th, in the West Coast at 9 p.m. 11:57 p.m. if you're on the East Coast. And so Venus, when it moves into Cancer, it's also at that world access point. So Venus is about love and creativity. It's giving our creative energy a boost. So here's Venus giving us a boost, maybe a little extra love, compassion. I mean, Venus is really more about passion than it is about compassion, but it's that creative spark while Mercury and the sun are conjunct at that power place. So this is a good time to be creative. If you're not ready to put things out, you can be doing things to get ready for that. And then when Mercury goes direct on August 11th, and then it will go back over the PowerPoint on the 21st, 22nd, 23rd. That will happen during the new moon time. And so it could be, depending on where you're at, what's going on for you. Do you just really need the time off right now? But consider, like, what do you want to talk about? Where does your voice want to be heard? And at least be working on that. If not, speaking out right now. And maybe this is a practice time while Mercury's retrograde. And then when we get to the end of August, which begins the eclipse time, which begins Pluto going out of bounds, then it's really time to get out there. So this is my little message for today, July 29th in the evening. I hope you have a lovely August if I don't do this again, and that you take the time you need and think about how you want to rewrite your own life.